So take my hand, little brother. Take my hand, proud father. Take my hand, everybody, and feel this black boy joy. So take my hand, little brother. Take my hand, proud father. Take my hand, everybody, and feel this black boy joy.
No, I'm saying I left Atlanta. I was so happy because then everybody's like, Brian's here. And I'm like, who's Brian? And you introduced yourself to me. And I was like, okay, we got somebody else taking over theater.
That is hilarious.
I really appreciate that because when I left, it felt everyone said I was leaving a boy. And you came in and it was like, oh, Brian's here now. I'm like, well,
that's amazing.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So.
There's so much pressure.
There's not a lot of pressure. I don't think so. Just do your thing. You killing it out here. It started for me at my kindergarten graduation.
Wow.
It was, kindergarten graduation. We had to do little speeches, like Mary Had a Little Lamb and all these little things. And some of the other kids were afraid to say their speeches. And the teacher would always say, Paris, get up and say your speeches. Mm-hmm. So I had to do like 4 or 5 speeches, and I was only supposed to do one. And I remember a lady at that graduation saying, you have an actor on your hands. And I was like, what is that? What is an actor? And ever since then, it's like, that's the only thing I can think about. And it's almost like, I feel crazy sometimes, because I'm like, if I'm not doing art, I'd rather not even be here. You know what I mean? It's the only thing that makes me happy. It's the only thing that brings me black boy joy. You know what I mean?
Help me.
Yeah, really, that's it. So it started when I was just a little kid.
When I decided, or when I knew that I was going to be an actor, it's so funny that you said you were in kindergarten because I was 20. I had never done any acting or any performance. It's just funny. People never believe it, or they just like, wow, because I'm only 26 now and I started when I was 20. I played football all my life. And when I decided to stop playing football, I auditioned for this, I thought it was a play. I mean, I had done things like at church. I grew up in the church, so you know, you get up and you speak at church, and it's like you're an actor, right? So I went to this audition for Debbie Allen. She was doing a residency in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm from Baton Rouge, well, from New Orleans, Baton Rouge, whatever. So she was doing a residency in Baton Rouge, and I just thought it was a play. So I came there in a button-down shirt and some slacks, and I was about 100 pounds heavier than what I am now. And I'm in there just big, you know, a football player. And I'm like standing in front of these women at this desk, like at a table.
Was Debbie there?
And the lady in the middle was like, well, are you going to do something? And so I said, yeah, I have a monologue. And I'm like standing there and I'm awful. I think I did like a poem from Coach Clark. Our deepest fear is not that we are Our deepest fear is that we are powerful. You know, it was piss poor. And so she's like, what? She stopped me and she's like, what are you doing? Like I'm here to audition for Miss Allen. If you can introduce me to Miss Allen, it was Miss Allen who I was talking to. Didn't know it. She had on a hat.
And she was in the basketball hat
with in this ponytail. And so she's like, I'm like, if you can introduce me to Miss Allen, I'm just being as humble as I know how. And that lady told me, fool, I am Debbie Allen. She's like, can you do? And so her daughter, who was next to her, her name is Vivian, who is my good friend now. Vivian's like, Mama, just, here is monologue. And she's like, well, can you sing? Vivian, I'm like, I could try. And so I sang Amazing Grace. I had never sang anything. I sang in the choir, but I sang Amazing Grace with my eyes closed, no performance quality. And when I opened my eyes, Debbie Allen was crying. And so she was touched. But even with her crying, she's like, well, I guess I'll have you, we'll have to teach you to do something. You'll have to lose some weight so you can play this part. But we'll have, and so then after that, I did that show. It was called Dreams, Debbie Allen's Dreams. It's like a children's musical. And then after that, I did like 8 shows with her. I trained at her academy, and she helped me get into school at Tisch. And so she's became like my mentor. And so from that day, when I started doing that show, I realized that even though my feelings were hurt constantly, like daily, there was nothing else in the world I could be doing. And I just felt like home. And then what happened was I started training and I was dancing like professionally within like 9 months.
Mm-hmm. My journey has been, I've always been an actor. I've always been a writer. I was writing since I was able to pick up a pen. Even before I knew what words were,
Yeah.
I used to have notebooks and just scribble. I remember that vividly, just writing in notebooks. As a kid, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just writing. And again, I always found myself through stories. And when I first started, like a lot of us, I started with, I wouldn't particularly call the plays that I did church plays, but they did have heavy Christian themes.
Yeah.
But there was no Jesus coming back. And
Right.
that didn't happen, but it did have heavy Christian themes. And I heard a poem. Her name is Jasmine Mans.
Okay.
I heard this poem in 2009. No. It was earlier than that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, she started off the poem by saying, your story doesn't start until you start telling the truth.
Mm.
So I said, okay. And I wrote a play called The Best Game. And I never used any language in any of my plays because I would always think, oh, what if my grandmother sees it? What, it's always that, what if someone sees it, But I said, you know what, I'm not going to think about that. And I wrote this play and it was just full of, fuck this, fuck the blah, blah, blah. It was a bunch of cursing.
My favorite.
I did it and then I went back to it and I was like, oh, okay, let me tone it down a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I did, and I produced that play, and the play was a major success. It was the first play I produced as Rising Sage Theater here. I wrote it in 2009, and I produced it here, and it was a major success. And from that, when I started telling the truth in my writing, I never looked back. And so now it's like I always tell the truth.
It's good. I think that I believe that before I can speak on the journey, I have to also just recognize that I'm at the beginning of my journey. I do believe very strongly in being truthful because art can't imitate a life that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so when I began to act, I couldn't do anything. I always felt like I wasn't, reaching my full potential because I had not reached my full truth in my own life.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think that the journey that I've tracked in the past, I guess I'll say 8 years, would be understanding who I truly am, accepting who I truly am, and then loving who I am. And the more that happens, then my writing gets better.
I think when the mask is stripped away, that's when the art can begin. Especially for me, because it's like I don't when I'm doing my art and when I'm in my art, all of that strips away from me. The mask, everything. I think it goes away, and when you get down to the bare essentials of just who you are, I know who I am, and I love who I am. So I don't have to walk into the world with a mask. Now, if other people believe they see a mask, I mean, that's your problem. I'm just, as Paris, I love art. It's what make my heart, it's the only reason I'm living is to do art. So to answer your question, when the mask comes off, it's like that's when the art is created.
Yeah, I think that in order for the mask to come off, just one has to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that some of us are more comfortable with ourselves than others are. But what I will say is, for me, when the mask comes off, it's just me in my rawest form. And I also feel like I'm more susceptible to reveal who I am and just to be myself when I'm around people who I know that won't judge.
Yeah.
Because when you feel like we're in an industry where it's all about people.
Yeah.
You present yourself to a director when you're auditioning, to a casting director, and then if you get the job, you present yourself to the director, and then the director is presenting you to the people. And then the people decide, then you just do the same shit over and over again, but it's all about people.
Yeah.
And so when you have a constant, I mean, it's what I do every day. So I'm always like, people, what people like? Does it seem real? Does it seem this? Does it seem that? And it's just like, whenever you get in front of people who you just trust enough to be like, they don't give a shit, you know? And also when you feel like somebody is bearing their raw self to you, I believe that is when I'm like my most revealed, like without a mask.
Definitely relax, that everything's going to be all right. 12 years old, I was going through some bad times. So I would tell myself to relax and tell the truth. You know, find your heart in your art. You know what I mean? So that's would be my advice to my 12-year-old self.
I think that I would tell my 12-year-old self to believe. And this is nothing against my family, man, but I come from a very industrial and traditional, but not in the good way, family. And so things were just done a certain way. Nobody was different. And if you ever thought different, then you were totally wrong, and it was just a sin almost. And so what I would tell my 12-year-old self is just to believe, not believe other people, but believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, because every single thing that I've dreamed, it's just amazing. I always say this to young kids when I speak to them. Every single thing that I've dreamed, I've done already. I would watch TV, and I'd be like, "Mom, I want to be on TV." And she's like, "Boy, be quiet," you know? And I've been on TV several times. I'm like, I want to be a movie star. I haven't been a movie star. Well, maybe a short film star. But I've done movies, big movies, blockbuster. I've done theater. I've done and it's just amazing how, in this moment, like right here today, it's still amazing to me that people even want me to sit and talk with you. Because I'm an actor. Because I just remember a time when I was 12 years old, and I said, I want to be this, and my mom was just like, that's stupid. Like, you better go to school, and you know.
We have to.
And it's just, I think that I love my mom, because one thing about my mom is, today, she's not the same thing that she was when she was 12. So I'm sure that if my mama could talk to herself when I was 12, it would be some of the same things. I know that my mom looks at me and just like, damn, I wish I would have let him do what he wanted to do when he was younger. Because she's evolved too. And I mean, she's like my best friend, but it's beautiful that I can look back and say, I wish I would have done that at 12. But even though I didn't do that at 12, I'm still able to say that because I started believing at whatever time, I'm able to. If you believe it, you can do it. Anything you believe, you can do. And I'm totally in it. Now the way you get there is probably the thing that may deter you. But if you can make it through and hustle, you gotta hustle. Now I'm a hustler.